Plus channel, we are in respiratory physiology. Now we are going to discuss about lung mechanics. That is mechanics of breathing. So let us start. So lung mechanics, it's mainly dealing with the study of forces and factors that bring the air into and out of the lungs. So let us see what are the forces. So mainly during inspiration, when you're quiet breathing like normal in rest, in comfortable position, the main muscle is diaphragm, which is useful for our inspiration. Actually, you know what happens to diaphragm? So here I can show you. So this is a diaphragm normally. So for example, this is a rib cage. So in inspiration, the diaphragm will, this is normal. In inspiration, it will become like this, so that you can see in lung the volume is increased but the pressure is decreased. So for this to easily remember, I'll say the Boyle's law. In introduction or organization of respiratory system, we already seen P1 is equal to P2 V2. So what this says is actually pressure is inversely proportional to volume. So here you can see now during inspiration the diaphragm has come down to increase the volume. So whenever the volume is increased, the pressure is decreased during inspiration. Whereas coming to expiration, so you can think this is expiration and this is inspiration. So during expiration you can see the diaphragm has come back to the normal, means the volume is decreased. So if the volume is decreased, now you can understand the pressure is increased. So during expiration the volume is decreased so that the the carbon dioxide can easily go out from the body, and the pressure is increased. Whereas here the pressure is decreased because atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeters of mercury, or also you can take it as like 0 as reference. So if the pressure is lower than this atmospheric pressure, then the air, it tries to suck the air into it. So this is inspiration. Here you can see the pressure is very high than atmosphere, so the air tries to now go out from the our body out into the atmosphere. So this is the main mechanism, very simple. It depends on Boyle's law. P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. So now let us come into our topic here. So comfortable main muscle is diaphragm, and we also have external intercostal muscle. So actually you can remember it easily. Inspiration start with I, whereas the muscle which are used here is external intercostal muscle, whereas in expiration starts with E, but the muscle here which is used is internal intercostal muscle. So the muscles are just like opposite, they're not same. You can see they're opposite. For inspiration we use external intercostal, for expiration we use internal intercostal. So here now we are talking about inspiration, so we'll use the opposite letter, external intercostal muscle, which contract sides of the muscle lift upward. So because of lifting upward, you can see the volume is increasing in the case of inspiration, and the chest area increases. This movement is like a bucket handle mechanism. So there the movement is like bucket handle, so I'll draw it here. So this is a bucket, these are the handles on both sides. So sorry, beginning it will be like this. So when you lift them, they'll rise like this to upside. So because of rising, the volume here it is increasing. So that is what they're saying. During inspiration the volume increases, and if we raise the handle of bucket, the area or volume increases, and they also lift the anterior part. So the sternum moves outward, that anterior posterior volume diameter also increases. So it is called pump handle movement because the rib part attached to the vertebra doesn't move, only the anterior part moving up and down, moving up and down during inspiration and expiration like a hand pump. So what they mean to say is nothing but all these actions. So because of this bucket like movement, you can see it is rising like this, vertically it is rising. But anterior posture, this is sternum in front, this is vertebra back. So these are the ribs like this from the sides, right? So to increase this like pump handle movement, as a sternum is moving, this is the pump here now. By pulling this is coming front. So because of this anterior posterior volume also increase. So by all this bucket handle movement and by this pumping movement, all this what we mainly say is volume increases in inspiration and the pressure decreases than atmospheric pressure. So this is mainly important. So we are here at a vertebra, so like that. So during normal comfortable inspiration, diaphragm moves downward and increase the volume, but during increase inspiration, external muscles are needed, like in forced inspiration. we need external muscles, accessory muscles are also needed. So anterior posterior expansion is like pump handle movement, and sideward expansion is like bucket handle movement, right? So this you need to remember: anterior posterior pump handle, sideward bucket handle movement. So during extra inspiration or forced inspiration, even we need sometimes use sternocleidomastoid, scalenus, pectoralis major. They also may help out. These are like accessory muscles. And during expiration, it's a quiet breathing. It's comfortable. Main muscle is not necessary. It is passive. It is the elastic recoil of the lungs, and it is a functional residual capacity. But during forced expiration, internal intercostal muscles are required, which is like pulling the bucket handle down and decreasing the cavity area, that is decreasing the volume and increasing the pressure. And the abdominal rectus muscle help to move the diaphragm rapidly upward and reduce the chest cavity. So now the same thing which you are talking about expiration. In expiration mainly the volume is decreased, so because of decrease in volume there is increase in pressure, so that as the volume is decreased. And one more important thing regarding expiration, in passive expiration you don't need any muscle, uh, whereas in active or forceful expiration you need muscles like mainly internal intercostal muscle. So that's what about this introduction. And next we have the elastance. So elastance is a property of any matter which resists the deformation, like elasticity, right? So during inspiration we are countering the elastance of lungs, so we need the help of muscles to help in position to avoid it recoiling back into normal position. Normally uh, lungs are like elastic rubber bands. So when you try to increase, for example this is a lung, now we are trying to force it to move to expand it during inspiration, because now you need to increase the volume in inspiration. So if you try to stretch a rubber band with the same force how much you stretched it, with the same force it try to recoil back, so it has a recoil nature. So mainly during inspiration, as you are increasing its volume, with the same force they try to recoil back. So we face the elastance in the case of inspiration. And tissue resistance, the both layers of pleural side and produce the resistance, but somewhat it is also controlled by the pleural fluid. We have mainly two pleural layers, that is visceral layer which is like almost sticking to our lung, and we have the parietal pleural layer which is attaching to our chest wall. In between, we have, actually they're also like almost sticking, just in between them we have the pleural fluid. So in between this both also there is a friction and resistance, but this is mainly controlled by the pleural fluid which is present in between these both layers. And next we have airway resistance, that is the air passing through the layers of lung also apply some resistance. When the air is passing with somewhat force, then it may also show resistance to the passage. And intrapulmonary layer, the vascular layer attached to the lungs, and the extrapulmonary layer is the parietal layer attached to chest wall, just now we discussed. So next coming to pressures individual in the lungs. So in lungs, for example this is a lung, so inside the lung we have respiratory bronchioles where we have alveoli, small sacs, right? So in the alveolar sacs, the pressure which is, you have some pressure inside them, right? They are called as alveolar pressure. And next coming to pressure in pleural fluid or cavity, so you can see, as I said here, this is a pleural fluid, so it also has some pressure that is called as pleural pressure. And the pressure outside the chest surface, so this is a chest surface, so outside it we know of course we have atmospheric pressure. So these are all the different pressures. Inside the alveoli you have pleural pressure, or inside the lung you can say the pulmonary pressure. So the pulmonary pressure or alveolar pressure. In the pleural fluid you have pleural pressure. In the outside, in the chest wall, you have the atmospheric pressure. So these are the different kinds of pressure which we face in the lung. So next we'll check out what is transmural pressure. So transmural pressure is the pressure exerted across the wall. It may be inflating or deflating the structure. So if it is positive, then it is inflating. If it is negative, it is deflating. If it is zero, no change. So what is this? Let us understand by means of diagram. So for example, if we think this as lung, so intramural pressure is nothing but the pressure difference between, for example, this alveolar pressure inside the alveoli minus the pleural pressure, that is P. So this difference is called as mainly transmural pressure. And if this pressure is equal to plus positive, if it is equal to positive, then it is called inflation, means because of this, if the pressure is positive means it is, the lung is expanding. If the pressure is negative means the lung is coming near. And if the pressure is zero means the lung is having no change. So by this transmural pressure we can easily find out whether the lung is inflating or deflating or no effect. So pressure inside the wall minus pressure outside the wall is equal to 0, positive or negative. So transmural pressure may be pressure alveolar minus pressure in the pleural side, that is equal to mainly transpulmonary pressure. So remember, this transmural pressure may be of different types. Transpulmonary pressure means the alveolar pressure minus pleural pressure. So that is nothing but the pressure which is present in the alveoli minus the pressure which is present in the pleural fluid. So alveolar pressure minus pleural pressure is equal to transpulmonary pressure. And next, so usually the pleural pressure is negative. Remember that the pleural pressure is usually negative. So if influence size of the lung, so yeah, it also influences the size of the lung. It is the pressure difference of lungs to inflate or deflate. So normally it is negative. So the transmural pressure across the chest wall is a transthoracic pressure. So transthoracic pressure is across the chest wall. So now you can guess the formula, that is the uh, pleural pressure pleural pressure minus atmospheric pressure gives the thoracic wall pressure. So that's it. So you can see here the pleural pressure minus atmospheric pressure will give you the transthoracic pressure. Next, coming to the atmospheric pressure is usually 0. We know this. Atmospheric pressure is usually 0. So transthoracic pressure, you can see here the atmospheric pressure is 0 means only the answer will be the pleural pressure. So transrespiratory pressure, what is this? So transrespiratory pressure is nothing but the pressure in the alveoli minus the pressure on the chest wall. That is pressure in the alveoli minus pressure in the outer chest wall. That is the atmospheric pressure. So this is also equal to uh, alveolar pressure, because atmospheric pressure is usually 0. So this gives us the respiratory pressure. So here you can see the transrespiratory pressure is equal to alveolar pressure minus atmospheric pressure. So we also have manometer, which is connected with the airways, which is mainly used to determine the intra-alveolar pressure. So to find out the alveolar pressure, we can use the manometer, and catheter is also swallowed by the patient, and it may enter into the lower one-third of the esophagus, and the tip of the catheter is mainly attached to the manometer. So by this we can determine the intrapleural pressure at the dorsal mediastinum at the lower one-third of esophageal portion and inflate the balloon. Inflate the balloon is like inflate our lungs. So this is how we use this. Next, let us see what is compliance. So compliance is nothing but the ability of stretch, how much our lungs can stretch, that is called compliance. So it's the case, is the ease by which we can stretch the component easily inflatable, easily distensible. So it is a measure of stretchability of component. So elastance is a difficult to stretch, that is less compliance. So always remember, if it is difficult to stretch means it is having less compliance, that is thick and fat one. So for example, if you have any more elasticity in that particular tissue, then if it is having more elastance means it will be less compliant. Always remember that elastance and compliance are inversely proportional, and you can see increased compliance means less elasticity, means less recoiling, because if compliance is more, it is having more stretchability. But if elasticity is more only, then have high recoiling. But if there is low elasticity, low recoiling. So example, by example you can understand it better. You can say this is a thin elastic rubber band. If you think like example, thin elastic rubber band and you have a thick elastic rubber band. In thick elastic rubber band, you can understand there is more elasticity. So if there is more elasticity, it is very hard to stretch it, and also recoiling also will be but recoiling will be easy because it is having more elasticity, so it will easily come out. So more recoiling but elasticity high, but compliance is low because it is hard for us to stretch it. But whereas coming to thin elastic band, it is easily stretchable, but here the elasticity is low because you can see it is thin, so elasticity is low but less recoil. So remember, recoiling is directly proportional to elasticity, whereas elasticity is inversely proportional to compliance. So that is the main concept here. So few diseases change the compliance of the lungs, and they make more compliance, less elasticity, and also sometimes decrease the compliance, increase the elasticity, so increase the fibrotic nature. So any disease may lead to sometimes increase in compliance, or sometimes any kind of disease may decrease the compliance. So in either case there is a problem in the lungs. So change in volume of lung change in pressure, you can see the compliance is given by the formula the change in volume of lungs by divided by change in pressure in lungs, whereas elastance is given by reverse because they are inversely proportional. So elastance is given by the formula change in pressure in the lungs divided by change in volume. So this is very important. Elastance and compliance are inversely proportional. So there are two elastic structures, the lung and chest wall. So in the case of our respiratory system, both are elastic. Our lungs are elastic and even our chest wall is elastic. So combined stretchability of both lungs and chest wall gives the compliance of whole respiratory system, right? So actually, I need to explain this concept. So for example, this is our chest wall and inside this we have our lungs, right? So for example, these are our lungs. So right. So this is our chest wall. Actually, always our chest wall tries to get outward, right? It's its normal resting comfortable stage, and always our lung try to recoil towards inward. That is lungs comfortable stage. So now you can understand this is a visceral pleura here and this is a parietal pleura over here, and in between parietal fluid, right? So now what we are doing is in normal state, but in the normal state the lungs are not like that. In normal state this lung is like almost completely attached to our pleural cavity, like this, to the parietal pleura. So for example, this is visceral pleura, this is parietal pleura, means of course parietal pleura is always attached to the chest wall. So you can see that the chest wall is going to move away from the lung, but now we are trying to tightly bring it towards the lung, and the lung always tries to always move towards inside, but now we are tightly stretching the lung and we are sticking. So you can see for both it is opposite effect, because here the chest wall is trying to go this side, but we are trying to bring the chest wall here, and the lungs they are always trying to go this side, but we are going to bring the chest lung this side. So this like for both it is opposite force. That is the reason why always the pleural fluid is negative. Why it is negative? To hold this both of them, because both are in opposite direction. So because of this negative pleural pressure they both are somewhat held together. So that is the reason why pleural pressure is always negative. So with that concept, let us continue our theory. So you can see the compliance of lung, only the lungs stretchability, compliance of chest wall, the stretchability of chest wall. So the resting volume, there is no transmural pressure, then lung is at resting volume. So you can see here the transmural, whenever the transmural pressure increases, then the volume also increases. So here you can see increase in transmural pressure increases the volume, because we know just now transmural pressure has increased. If it is positive means we know that it is more inflated. If it is more inflated means of course more increase in volume means decrease in pressure, right, according to Boyle's law. So now let us see the compliance of lung itself. So the compliance of lung is equal to the volume change divided by alveolar pressure minus pleural pressure. So now without seeing you need to say what is the difference between alveolar pressure and pleural pressure, what we have discussed before. The pressure inside the alveoli minus the pressure inside the pleural, which gives us the transpulmonary pressure. Very good, because transpulmonary pressure is nothing but alveolar pressure minus pleural pressure. So for that, if we try to draw a graph, it would look like this. You can see this is increasing pressure here, this is our volume capacity. So you can see the pressure is increasing here. And if you want to take the compliance of chest wall, then we can use the pleural pressure minus atmospheric pressure, because this is about chest wall. So what is the pleural pressure minus atmospheric pressure? Is the pressure trans thoracic pressure. Very good. So trans thoracic pressure. So the graph will be like this. And what is the compliance of you can see here, yeah, wall, yeah, compliance of wall, you can see that is change in volume by pleural pressure. Why we have took only pleural pressure? Because before we have discussed because in chest wall we can take only pleural pressure, because atmospheric pressure is 0, we know. So hence we have excluded it and only put the pleural pressure. Next let us see the respiratory compliance of respiratory system. So it is a change in volume by alveolar pressure minus atmospheric pressure, so this gives us a trans respiratory pressure. So in trans respiratory pressure also you can conclude it to alveolar pressure because atmospheric pressure is 0. So trans compliance of respiratory system is change in volume by alveolar pressure. So the graph will be like this, so you can check out the graphs for each of them. So next